Hello and welcome to HarperCollins Children's Book Spring 2023 Librarian Preview. I'm Julia Smith, Senior Editor, Books for Youth at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by copying the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Finally, Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select show or hide subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting subtitle settings. We have a wonderful program for you today. So without further ado, I'll pass things off to Patty Rosati and Mimi Rankin. Take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Spring 2023 Librarian Preview. We're really happy that you're here and really thankful that you took the time to be with us today. I'm really excited for you to meet three of our wildly talented creators and to hear about some other teen titles, picture books, and middle grade novels that Mimi and I will tell you about. These are all books that are going to be hitting shelves between May and August of 2023. I have a couple of little housekeeping details. I'll go real quick so we can get to the fun stuff. First thing is we sent a spreadsheet of the titles that we're going to present today. We sent that out before the webinar. Please feel free to use that to take notes about the books that you hear about today. You can also request to download these titles from both NetGalley and Edelweiss. The full picture book PDFs are only on Edelweiss, but you can immediately access them by clicking the links on each entry. And then speaking of Edelweiss, you can see all the presented titles and many more. We can't, unfortunately, tell you about each and every book that we've got coming in the spring and in the summer. So we put a collection together in Edelweiss, and you can look at that at your leisure. There's lots of great stuff there. So let's get to it. My YA librarian friends and readers, we're going to start with teen titles today. You all usually have to wait to the end. Today, we're starting with you. And I'm going to introduce you to one of our terrific teen authors, E.L. Shen. E.L. Shen is an author and editor whose family immigrated to Flushing, Queens many years ago. Elizabeth's grandparents immigrated to Flushing in the 1950s. It's an enclave where she spent much of her childhood. Her experience there informs her poignant, loving depiction of this vibrant immigrant community, a portrayal that's so immersive, you almost feel like you're right there on Main Street with the three main characters. Her debut novel, The Comeback, was a Junior Library Guild selection, received starred reviews, and was praised in the New York Times for its fast-paced prose, authentic dialogue, and high-spirited protagonist. The Queens of New York is her first book for teens. Please help me welcome E.L. Shen.
Thank you so much, Patty, for that wonderful introduction. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that. So as Patty said, I'm Elizabeth, or E.L. Shen, and I am beyond excited to share a little bit more about The Queens of New York with you. This is my young adult debut novel that I originally pitched as an Asian American Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. So Queens follows three girls, Ariel over here on the left, Gia in the middle, and Everett over here on the far right. They are best friends living in Flushing, Queens, who are about to spend their summers apart. In San Francisco, Ariel is trying to uncover the mystery of how her sister died and why her family is keeping it a secret. Back in Flushing, Gia is falling for a boy whose life represents everything she can't have. And in Ohio, Everett hopes to be a Broadway star, but realizes that the musical theater world wants to shut her out. And as the girls navigate their own personal journeys, they lean on each other and discover that even apart, they are mighty together. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how I started writing this book. I started writing Queens in lockdown. I was feeling very lonely and isolated, which I'm sure are feelings that many of you also experienced during the height of COVID-19. So I chose to escape to a different world, one where summers were endless and anything was possible. And I also wanted to write this book because I wanted to ask these quintessential questions that I felt were quintessential to the human experience and to the Asian American experience in particular. So how do you come to terms with grief and trauma? How do you break down negative perceptions of yourself and move forward? And what do you do when the thing that you love the most doesn't want you there? So I'd like to focus on this last question as it pertains to Everett in particular, because I think it will resonate specifically with those of you in the room who are currently and constantly fighting against book bans that are actively trying to suppress marginalized voices. As I mentioned earlier, Everett wants to be on Broadway, so she attends a prestigious musical theater camp, but experiences insidious racism that she has to find the courage to tackle head on. So I, like Everett, love musical theater. This is a picture of me in 2019 in a musical, and in a completely different production. I was excited to be a part of the show. It was called Thoroughly Modern Millie. But the Chinese laundryman character that I was asked to portray felt extremely flat and stereotypical and dated. And even worse, this role gave my white castmates permission to speak in broken Chinese accents. And I remember sitting there in this room, reading this part, feeling very trapped. I struggled to say anything, so I was just still and shocked. And I was wondering, how is this even happening? Is this even happening, or am I imagining it? And that's how Everett feels at theater camp in the middle of Ohio. She would rather believe that she's too sensitive than come to terms with her director and castmates' racism. And I won't spoil the ending, but Everett will ultimately need her friends to regain her self-confidence and know her worth. In fact, this is something that all the girls will need from each other. They really do lean on each other throughout the book to find their strength. So I'm really excited for you all to meet Gia, Ever, and Ariel in what Meg Cabot, author of The Princess Diaries and one of my favorite writers of all time, calls smart, funny, but tender at times as well, a luminous read. So to finish, I'm hopefully going to show you some of that luminous read. I'm just going to read the first page and a half from The Queens of New York. This is my arc over here. And this starts with Gia's point of view. So chapter 1. There are 3 parts to every perfect dumpling: the skin, the meat, and the water. Ariel is the skin, the delicate foundation that can make something beautiful out of nothing. Ever is the meat, tough, juicy, and packed with spice. And me, I guess I'm the water, the one keeping us all together. The yellow awning letters that spell out Lee's dumpling house are chipped and faded. Dad still needs to repaint, but the kitchen is bustling. Sesame balls cover the counter, anxious to be deep fried, while sweaty chefs awaken hundreds of char siu bao from their frozen slumber. In the booth by the window, Ariel yawns. You can sleep on the plane, Everett says, swatting her head. Ariel sticks out her tongue and loudly slaps me onto the fragile wrapper. Don't mess up my dumplings, I tease. Your parents' dumplings, Everett corrects. She gestures to our large assembly line, and we're basically free labor, so you can't complain. I make a show of rolling my eyes, but my heart dips. I'm going to miss all of this. Our early morning dumpling masterpieces and lazy bike rides through Flushing Meadows, sketching anime boys, Everett's soft humming fanning the pages, watching Ariel decimate her opponents at every debate, and cheering on Everett at all her musicals. And then, ending the night squished into sleeping bags, falling asleep next to leftover fried pizza and half a dozen sheet masks. When we met, we were 7-year-olds prancing through Queen's annual Lunar New Year festival in our fluffy winter coats and fuzzy earmuffs. Back then, everything was simple. Our parents were volunteers, so we got there early, whizzing past closed storefronts and messing around with confetti cannons until Dad yelled at us. When it was time for the parade, we lifted our chins and marveled at the massive red dragon dragged through the streets by neighbors, now part of something magical. 10 years later, we still feel that magic, in our city and in our friendship. Everett goes to her fancy private school in Manhattan, and Ariel naturally placed into the best public high school in Queens, so during the school year, we only see each other on weekends. But the summers are special. The summers are for us. That is, of course, until they both decided to ditch me. So I'll leave you all on that cliffhanger. Thank you so much, and I really hope you enjoy the Queens of New York.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. As a recovering theater kid and a huge fan of the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants books, this book is truly one of my favorite YA books that I've read in a long time. And it just feels like a hug, and I love it so much, and I can't wait for everybody here to read it. Hi, everyone. I am Mimi Rankin. I'm Senior Marketing Manager on the School and Library team here at HarperCollins Children's Books. And today I'm going to tell you about just some of the amazing other teen titles we have coming this spring and summer. So first up, the amazingly wonderful, beloved, best-selling, and award-winning author Becky Albertalli is back with her most personal book yet, and we cannot wait for you to meet Imogen, obviously. Imogen is 100% straight, but that hasn't stopped her from being the world's greatest ally through supporting her queer bestie Lily in any way necessary, including going along with a lie to Lily's new college friend group that they used to date. As Imogen begins to spend more time with Lily's chaotic, beautiful new friend Tessa, she begins to wonder how straight the line she's towing really is. If you love Becky as much as we all know you do, this book is truly the book of her heart and a must-have on your shelves. Next slide. So this is only this beautiful moment, excuse me. From the Stonewall Honor winning author of Like a Love Story comes a sweeping story of 3 generations of boys in the same Iranian family, examining the intersection of American, Iranian, and queer identity at the end of different decades. Next. All right, from Morris finalist and Pura Belpré honoree Sonora Reyes, author of The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School, comes a John Tucker Must Die for the generation growing up in the Me Too era. For fans of Laurie Halse Anderson and with a neurodivergent protagonist, the Luis Ortega Survival Club offers a story of revenge told with nuance, heart, and ultimately the hope of healing. Next. Nigeria Jones. So if you were at our last preview, you got to hear the incredible Evie Zaboy speak about this project, but if you haven't, it is on YouTube, so go back and watch that preview. And also from award-winning best-selling author Evie Zaboy comes a bold new YA coming-of-age story, which explores race and complicated family dynamics about a 17-year-old girl whose father is the leader of a Black liberation group. Next. All right, America Redux. This is an unflinching cultural history that demonstrates just how present our past really is by a debut visual storyteller. America Redux takes on defining aspects of American culture and society through episodes spanning our history from pre-Columbian times through the 21st century. Instead of taking a chronological look at these topics, it jumps through time, forcing the reader to look at these events in a new light and explore the interconnections between past and present. History has never felt so urgent and relevant. This is a perfect companion to other books that re-examine America's history, such as A Young People's History of the United States, but in an even more accessible format. Next, please. Right, All the Dead Lie Down. This is The Haunting of Bly Manor meets House of Salt and Sorrows in an award-winning author Kiri McCauley's contemporary YA gothic romance about a newly orphaned teen girl who accepts a nanny position at Lovelace House, a coastal Maine estate drowning in history and rumors. Next, please. All right, Frontera is a debut young adult graphic novel that combines social commentary with a touch of magical realism. Frontera is a supernatural borderland odyssey and follows Mateo as he makes the dangerous journey back home to Arizona through the Sonoran Desert with the help of a new friend, a ghost named Guillermo. And that is it for me on the teen front. Back to Patty.
Thanks, Mimi. And again, as mentioned, many, many more teen titles coming in the spring and the summer. So take a look at the Edelweiss collection we put together. We're going to turn our attention to picture books, and we are going to turn our attention to Corey Tabor. He's the author and illustrator of the Caldecott honor-winning Mel Fell and the Geisel Award winners Fox at Night and Fox the Tiger. His other acclaimed titles include the young graphic chapter books, Sir Ladybug and the Queen Bee, and Sir Ladybug and the Bookworms. The picture books Snail Crossing, Fox and the Bike Ride, and Fox and the Jumping Contest, and more I Can Read Fox titles. Much like he did in Mel Fell, Corey's newest book, Simon and the Better Bone, continues to play with the format of how we read picture books. We're also lucky to have another Fox I Can Read book this season, Fox Has a Problem, teaching young readers about solving problems and helping out friends. Corey lives in Tacoma, Washington, and got up very early today to be with us. So thank you for that, Corey. And he spends his time making pictures and stories. You can visit him online at CoreyTabor.com, and you can hear him right now from his studio. Please help me welcome Corey Tabor.
Hi, thanks, Patty, and thanks everyone for watching. I'm really excited to get to share Simon and a bit of my process with you all. Let me share my screen here. So of all my books so far, Simon and the Better Bone has had the longest, twistiest journey from the first idea to the final book. I had the initial idea back in 2018. I was walking around Green Lake in Seattle, which is one of my favorite places, and also where I would have the idea for Mel Fell a year or two later. And I was watching the swallows flying over the lake. And when swallows are hunting, they do this thing where they kind of dive and skim along the surface of the water. And the water was really clear and flat that day. So I thought it looked like the birds were kind of playing tag with their own reflections. Around that time, I had been reading several books that really experimented and played with the picture book form. Two of my favorites of these were John Aggie's The Wall in the Middle of the Book and Susie Lee's stunning Shadow. As I watched the swallows, I was thinking about those books, and I got the idea of doing a vertical picture book set at a lake where the book gutter would be the dividing line between the sky and the water, about a swallow who befriends her own reflection. So I wrote and sketched out a dummy, and these are a couple of spreads from that. But while I love the concept, I couldn't quite figure out what to do with the story. I worked on it for several months, and I just couldn't get it to click. So I ended up doing what I do with a lot of my ideas. I put it away in the digital drawer and forgot about it. So fast forward a few years, and I ended up making 2 picture books, 2 early readers, and 3 graphic novels before, oh, sorry, skipped ahead there, before I finally figured out what to do with this idea. I was just finishing up the 3rd Sir Ladybug graphic novel, which for you librarians out there, it is the story of Sir Ladybug and his friends trying to return a library book on time. And it's kind of a love letter to libraries, books, and librarians. So anyways, I was just finishing up work on that, and I was really looking forward to start on my next picture book. And I wanted it to be kind of a follow-up or a companion to Mel Fell. So I was trying to think of ways to tell a story that would open vertically and where the physical book itself would kind of help tell the story. That's when I remembered my bird idea that I'd put away. Unfortunately, I still didn't have a good story to go with the idea. But then I remembered a story that I'd heard when I was a kid. It's an Aesop's fable called The Dog and His Reflection, about a dog with a bone who mistakes his reflection for another dog with a better bone, and deciding he wants the better bone, jumps into the water and ends up with no bones, which I realized would be the perfect story to go with my reflection idea. So I decided to do a retelling of Aesop's fable, and just like that, my bird became a dog. But the thing about fables is that they are kind of by definition morality tales, and I wanted to focus more on the humor of the story. I also wanted it to be a kind of friendship story, and I wanted the dog to get a happier ending than he does in Aesop's tale. So I set to work designing my dog. As a side note, I drew all of these early sketches on an iPad digitally. And back before I had a kid, I used to do all of my sketches on paper, and then I would laboriously scan them into my computer and assemble them in Photoshop. But these days I spend a lot of my time wrangling a toddler. So being able to work anywhere, at least in the early writing and sketching stage, is very nice. So I sketched these dogs, but they didn't feel quite right. I had an image in my mind of the dog had to be kind of silly and furry and floppy, the kind of dog who would mistake his own reflection for another dog. But eventually, after many, many tries, I came up with this guy, and I knew I finally had my dog, and he just looked like a Simon to me. So as a side note to my earlier side note, working on a tablet also makes it easier for my son to help out with my work. And here you can see he helped me pick Simon's color. So as I was working on the character sketches, I was also writing and sketching out the story. These are a couple of the sketches from my dummy. I never tried retelling a story before, but I found that having Aesop's tale to build my story on top of was really fun and really freeing. I already had a built-in story arc and conflict, so I mostly just got to play around with the character and the idea of the reflection and just see where it took me. So when it comes to making the final art, I always like to experiment from book to book with different art materials and techniques. And but for this book, I ended up deciding to do the art in a pretty similar style to Melfell. I used acrylic paint, pencil, colored pencil, and crayon just on plain old copy paper. Then scanned and assembled everything in Photoshop in layers. And these are some of the pieces that I used to make the final art for this spread. And you'll notice that I painted Simon and those flowers there in green. Since I end up adjusting all the colors digitally, it doesn't really matter at this point what color I paint things. So I'm mostly just looking for interesting textures. And in Melfell, I had painted pretty much everything with these cheap red and green acrylic paints, but sadly the red tube dried up. So almost everything in Simon was painted in green. And here's a little video of kind of how I layer up all the different line work and colors and everything in Photoshop, and how I make the final art. So there's some pencil and the rocks there and colored pencil, and some crayons in the background for the grass. And then I changed Simon to that brown color that my son picked out for me. Some more pencil and colored pencil and some more acrylic paint. And then for this book, I did something I've never done before to get the reflection on the bottom spread, or on the bottom page. I copied everything from the top page and just duplicated it down to the bottom. And then I used a filter or two in Photoshop to kind of add a ripple effect to make it look like a reflection. And then I added some additional ripples and stuff using paint and pencil on top of that. So that's the final art there. And so like I said, it was a long, twisty road, but when I was preparing for this presentation, it was a lot of fun to see how much of the original idea actually made it into the final book. On top of the initial concept and the setting, a lot of the ideas, compositions, and even characters from the bird book made it into my final Simon book. For example, I just love these ducklings a little too much to not include them. And same with these frogs. And I even got to include this little Easter egg, a nod to my original idea of the swallow playing with her reflection. So that's the story of Simon and the Betterbone. Thanks again, everyone, for watching.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Corey. These books are so fun for story time. So if y'all haven't been reading Corey's books in the library, it's definitely ones you want to pick up. And also, Corey, I hope that your son is getting art royalties for his contributions to Simon. So next up in picture books, let's see. Yes, Corey was very humble and didn't mention that he has another book on this season, the next Fox book. So in his next I Can Read adventure, Fox, the hilarious trickster character featured in Geisel Award winners Fox at Night and Fox the Tiger, he learns to solve a problem in an unexpected way. Next, please. All right, Snake's Big Mistake. Snake loves art class until his clay pot breaks and he makes a terrible mistake. A picture book about friendship, apologizing, and forgiveness from acclaimed author-artist Sarah Kurpiel. We absolutely love all of Sarah's books for young readers, but this is a great and kind of rare book focusing on lying, apologizing, and taking responsibility. This is a great one. Next, please. All right, Mary's Idea captures the sound, passion, innovation, and love of the arts that jazz pianist and composer Mary Lou Williams shared with the world. A stunning and transporting picture book about the creative process by two-time Caldecott medalist Chris Roshka. And this includes back matter, which we know is the favorite word of librarians and teachers. Next, please. All right, Caldecott winner Beth Crombs and Newbery honor winning poet Joyce Sidman team up in this a singular celebration of a beautiful, fascinating shape in nature. This is a nonfiction picture book companion to their acclaimed Swirl by Swirl. Next, please. So on the right, we have the Book of Turtles. From National Book Award finalist and New York Times bestseller Cy Montgomery comes an ode to one of the most diverse, fascinating, and beloved species on the planet, turtles. With dazzling illustrations and emotionally engaging fact-filled text, this picture book will speak to the wisdom that these long-lived animals can lend. And there on the left side of the screen, we have Spark, Shine, Glow. What is light and how does it shape our world? A STEM-inspired companion to Lift, Mix, Fling by the acclaimed early childhood science writer Lola M. Schaefer and the award-winning artist James Yang. This is an educational and inventive picture book for readers of David McCulley, Byron Barton, and anyone curious about how light impacts our world. Next, please. All right, this inspiring picture book biography created by two Coretta Scott King Honor winners tells the story of Ketanji Brown Jackson, who made history as the first Black woman to serve as a Supreme Court justice. Next, please. All right, Juneteenth is a lyrical picture book about our newest nationally recognized holiday. Juneteenth follows the annual celebration in Galveston, Texas, the birthplace of Juneteenth, through the eyes of a boy coming to understand his place in Black American history in a story from three Texan creators, award-winning poet Van G. Garrett, and the artists of the Juneteenth mural in Galveston, Reginald Adams and Samson Bimbo Adenugba. Juneteenth is not only history, the crucial details of the past that must be remembered, but also deeply rooted in the present and future, highlighting the joy, optimism, pride, and progress that we hope young readers will appreciate. Next, please. When Kanta finds a guitar in the trash, she is one step closer to becoming a rock star. Even though the guitar is broken and she doesn't know how to play, with the help of her community, nothing can stop Kanta from achieving her wildest dreams. From the creators of Paletero Man, La Guitarrista is an empowering tale of resilience, community, the power of music, and never giving up on your dreams. Next. All right, A Smart, Smart School. Newbery Medal winner Sharon Creech delivers A Smart, Smart School, which is the companion to the New York Times bestselling and perennial picture book favorite, A Fine, Fine School. Beloved characters Tilly, Beans, and Mr. Keen return with a timely message about the importance of creativity in the classroom. And as a reminder, if you go to our Edelweiss catalog, which was, I believe, sent out in the email, for all of these picture books, you can actually read the full interior PDF right there on Edelweiss, so you can peruse all these books right there. Thanks so much, and I will hand it back over to Patty.
Thank you, Mimi. Great list of picture books, and again, more to see in the Edelweiss collection. So last but not least, our final author presenter is Jerry Craft. And Jerry Craft is the #1 New York Times bestselling author, illustrator of the Newbery Medal winning graphic novel New Kid and its companion book Class Act. Along with being the first graphic novel to win the Newbery, New Kid also won the Coretta Scott King Author Award and the Kirkus Prize for Young Readers. Jerry is the creator of Mama Boys, an award-winning syndicated comic strip. He has won 5 African American literary awards and is a co-founder of the Schomburg Center's annual Black Comic Book Festival. In Jerry's latest addition to the world of Riverdale Academy school trip, we see Jordan and his friends off on the adventure of a lifetime to Paris. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Jerry Craft.
Well, hey, thank you, Patty. And thank you, everyone. So I am excited to share some stuff with you. And I want to share my screen, let's see, and tell you a little bit about School Trip. So going back to 2017, that was when I signed with HarperCollins and my dream came true of having a character like Jordan Banks. And all I ever wanted to do was show kids of color, protagonists of color, just doing fun stuff. You know, there are a lot of very important books on African-American history. And I just wanted to add some diversity to that diversity. So by having characters like Jordan and Drew and Liam, that was really my dream come true. So the thing is, everything is new. You know, when you have these kids of color, I don't have to have them going into outer space or doing anything too outrageous because I just hadn't seen much of it, you know? So I just had them going to private school. So this is, New Kid was a kid going to private school. And I just absolutely, again, it was loosely based on my life and my son's lives. So then it was amazing because it was in 13 different languages and all that. And I was like, whoa, what do I do next? So that was what I had to do with School Trip, was I wanted to have them go somewhere where I had never seen before. So I'm going to just finish up this little picture of Jordan here, because this is Drew and Jordan and Liam. And we had alluded to this trip to Paris in New Kid and Class Act. And now it is finally time for them to pack their bags because they are going to Paris. There you go. Now, one of the cool things is that I actually went to Paris and did my homework. So I'm going to show you School Trip here. Here is the cover. And so Bon Voyage. Now, everyone feels like a new kid on this school trip. So what I really wanted to do with this book is, in the first book, you had Jordan as a new kid and Drew. But now if I take the same characters who you love and put them in a different surrounding, everyone is the new kid. And that was really what I want to do. So now you see them going to the different places. And yes, Andy does go on a trip because I had to make it fun. Not for Jordan and Drew, but you know. So here they are, and here is a scene where Andy, everyone's favorite, is like, hey, Jordan, when you're a famous artist, you can sell your paintings out here. And I got to do a lot of really cool research. Here is Sacré-Cœur, one of my favorite places. And here is Ramon and Samira and Alexandra and Maury and Drew. And they're just talking about, wow, this is so cool, because it says, I've always wanted to come here. I've always liked the view from here. It makes you think. Yeah, but it makes me think of all the people back home who never get to even leave the neighborhood. I wish that they could see this. So do I, Drew. Because one of the things that I always try to do with my books is teaching empathy, you know, so, and also showing kids possibilities. So for anyone that says, oh, well, you know, I don't know if my kids can relate to this class going to Paris, they will. Because I put it in such a way that is embracing, and it's nice for kids to have goals. and dreams. And that is one of the things that I think always kept me going as a kid, was wanting to see new things. I've since gone back and taken my kids to Paris. So this is the class at the Louvre, and I got to take my sons there. And, you know, that is really the basis of what I wanted to do always, is just to have kids of color as just really good kids with a loving family. And I'm going to end this with, let me see, let's go back to one of my favorites, as the Arc de Triomphe. And they're talking about the food and the culture. And I like to think that it is the best of the bunch of the three. I think it's the funniest. And I really wanted to make sure that I put so much in there, because I know that for the third book, if I didn't put in everyone's favorite characters and do all your favorite things, that you'd come looking for me in a good way. But yeah, so that is School Trip. It took me about a year of my life to do it. And, you know, when it came time to, I just wanted to show the kids even what it's like to experience new culture. You know, this is not in the States. So what I wanted to do, one of the harder things about doing a sequel or companion book is to make sure that you cover all of the things that people expect. So I know I needed to show Jordan and Drew and Liam. But then what's so funny is, as I started doing school visits, I had more and more kids come up and say, I want to see more about Ramon. And with tears in their eyes sometimes, like, you know, this character really made me feel seen. Or Samira, who's a Muslim girl, like, wow, I've never seen anyone like her. You know, you made me feel seen. And so I think with this one, with School Trip, I want to do more of an ensemble where everyone gets a chance to shine. And yeah, I'm very excited. And I think we have a little trailer, Patty. We have something. This is the world premiere, you know, for all my teacher and librarian friends. Okay, everyone ready? Okay, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and action.
Hi, I'm Jordan Banks. My time at RAP may not have been the prettiest picture so far, but it's about to get a whole lot better because we're going on a school trip.
Bon voyage, baby!
To Paris. You know, the one in France. Everything may look perfect at first, but...
C'est la vie.
Because when you're in a new country with new customs and new food, everyone's gonna feel like the new kid.
And you are the first to see that trailer. That's like the red carpet.
Thank you, Jerry. Thanks for sharing the trailer, and thanks for sharing your thoughts and being with us today. We might have a little time at the end, so if you and our other authors could hang around, and if anyone in the audience has questions, you know, feel free to put them in the chat or the Q&A, and we can answer some. Great, thanks, Jerry.
Welcome, April 4th.
April 4th. That's the day that that School Trip drops. Okay, I am going to tell you about some other middle grade titles, some other sequels, some other new things. If you could go to the next slide, please. The one and only Catherine Applegate is back, and we are really happy to share that everyone's favorite baby elephant, Ruby, is getting her own turn in the spotlight following the Newbery Medal winning The One and Only Ivan and its best-selling sequel, The One and Only Bob. Readers who love following Ivan and Bob's magnificent and moving adventures will get their hearts stolen again with Ruby as they learn more about her experience as a baby elephant in Africa and the journey that led her to the mall circus and animal sanctuary with Ivan. We will publish this with lots of fanfare in May. Next slide, please. We published Tang Ha Lai's debut novel, Inside Out and Back Again, about 10 years ago, and it won both the National Book Award and a Newbery honor and was a #1 New York Times bestseller. It's been added to curriculum throughout the United States and continues to be embraced by teachers and librarians and the students they work with. This novel picks up 2 years after Ha and her family's arrival in Alabama as refugees from the Vietnam War and follows them as they pursue a better life in Texas. Once again, it's told in gorgeous verse, and once again, it's inspired by personal experience of the author. Really, really excited about this. Next one. Another long time coming sequel. I'm really beyond excited to tell you about this. This is the sequel to Running Out of Time, a book that many of you probably know. It's sort of a go-to, still super popular book in many middle school libraries across the country. It's 2193, and Zola has the perfect life. Virtual school with her friends from all over the world, an Insta closet that provides custom outfits, I'd love one of those, and an oven that provides meals on demand. Then she finds a book about Jessie Kaiser and her escape from Clifton Village, a living museum where people live life as if it were 1861, oblivious to the modern world looking in. Jessie looks surprisingly like Zola. Could history be repeating itself? Falling Out of Time is a fresh dystopian novel that is sure to pull in new readers as well as fans of Margaret's other books, with themes of climate change, financial disparity, and big tech. Zola's VR school experience will especially resonate, I think, with readers who endured virtual schooling throughout the pandemic. Next slide, please. This is classic Gary Schmidt meets classical mythology in a warm and witty novel in the tradition of Gary's own Newbery Honoree, The Wednesday Wars. Here, a 7th grader has to figure out how to fulfill an assignment to perform the 12 labors of Hercules in real life and makes discoveries about friendship, community, and himself along the way. Next, please. This is The Witch of Woodland. A young girl preparing for her bat mitzvah discovers she has mysterious abilities in this magical contemporary coming-of-age story rooted in Jewish faith from the beloved author of one of my all-time favorite books, Orphan Island. The Witch of Woodland is vintage Laurel Snyder, a rich, emotional story about a contemporary character wrapped in a shimmering cloak of magic, asking provocative questions about growing up, identity, and how to be a person in the world. Here she combines all of this with an exploration of Judaism and Jewish mysticism. This is something very close to Laurel's heart and part of her own identity. It's subject matter that she's explored in her picture books that she's now bringing here to the middle grade fiction for the first time. Great one. Next slide, thank you. This is the next book in the New York Times bestselling Emmy and Friends series, told from the alternating POVs of Sarah and her best friend Leo. It follows 2 divergent storylines, one in which Sarah has the courage to ask out her crush, and another in which she loses her nerve. Terry's known for her authentic friendship stories, capturing the messiness and warmth of these important relationships. But there aren't enough that focus on the special connections between boy and girlfriends like this one. So I think this will make a nice addition to your shelves. Thank you. The latest uproarious middle grade adventure from We Need Diverse Books co-founder and Edgar Award nominated author Lamar Giles follows twin sisters Wiki and Lean Ellison as they discover a mystery at Cosmos Camp for Young Geniuses in the standalone companion to the legendary Alston Boys series, which received 6-star reviews. This is Heroes of the Water Monster, right? Oh, no, it's not. Sorry, I'm out of order. It's The Greatest Kid in the World. John Dave Anderson knows how to write relatable, humor-filled books that also tug at readers' heartstrings, and he's done it again with The Greatest Kid in the World. Zeke is a prank-loving middle child who finds himself in trouble more often than not. So when he receives a letter informing him that he's a finalist for Greatest Kid in the World, he and his family are a little skeptical. But ever since his dad left, money's been tight and the $10,000 prize money is enticing. So Zeke sets out on a mission to prove to the world just how great he can be. This is a really delightful read that had me laughing and crying at the same time, and another book I think that you should add to your TBR pile. There we go, there's Heroes. This is the unmissable companion to Brian Young's American Indian Youth Literature Award-winning debut novel, Healer of the Water Monster. This novel tells the story of 2 contemporary young Navajo heroes and 1 water monster who must learn to work together to save their present world from the lasting hurt of their people's past. The Probability of Everything. Mimi's favorite book on the list, I think. I should have her present this one, but I'm going to give it a try, Mimi. 11-year-old Kemi Carter loves scientific facts, specifically probability. It's how she understands the world and her place in it. But everything Kemi thought she knew changes when she sees an asteroid hover in the sky, casting a purple haze over her world. M+68 has an 84.7% chance of colliding with the Earth in 4 days. And with that collision, Kemi's life as she knows it will end. But over the course of those 4 days, even facts don't feel true to Kemi anymore. The new town she moved to that was supposed to be better for the family isn't very welcoming. And M+68 is taking over her life. But others are still going to school and eating at their favorite diner like nothing has changed. Is Kemi the only one who feels like the world is ending? With the days numbered, Kemi decides to put together a time capsule that will capture her family's truth, how creative her mother is, how inquisitive her little sister can be, and how much Kemi's whole world revolves around her father. But no time capsule can change the truth behind all of it, that Kemi must face the most inevitable and hardest part of life, saying goodbye. This is a heart-wrenching middle grade debut with a truly stunning twist, and one that I think you should download, read, and share ASAP. Conjure Island. From the award-winning author of Root Magic comes the story of a girl forced to spend the summer with a great-grandmother she's never met, only to discover she runs a school for Southern conjure magic. It was Eden's ability to weave important social issues and marginalized perspectives into an engaging, magical coming-of-age story that excited readers and reviewers so much in Root Magic. And Conjure Island only continues to carve out a distinctive place for her writing on middle grade shelves. Her compelling voice, character, setting, historical and cultural details about the Gulagichi culture and folklore, and vivid and essential perspective make this a standout in the middle grade fantasy space. Look at that cover, I love it. The Fire, the Water, and Maudie McGinn. Neurodivergent Maudie always looks forward to the summer she spends in California with her dad. But this year, she must keep a troubling secret about her home life, one that her mom warned her never to tell. Maudie wants to confide in her dad about her stepfather's anger, but she's scared. When a wildfire strikes, Maudie and her dad are forced to evacuate to the beach town where he grew up. It's another turbulent wave of change. But now, every morning from their camper, Maudie can see surfers bobbing in the water. She desperately wants to learn, but could she ever be brave enough? As Maudie navigates unfamiliar waters, she makes friends, and her autism no longer feels like the big deal her mom makes it out to be. But her secret is still threatening to sink her. Will Maudie find the strength to reveal the awful truth and maybe even find some way to stay with Dad before summer is over? This contemporary novel by the award-winning author of The Sunday Birds is a must-read for fans of Leslie Connor and Ali Standish. And I think this is the last one we're going to tell you about today, and it's from Jackie Davies, whom you all know. This is The International House of Dereliction. It's a terrific, not too scary ghost story. Homeschooled 10-year-old Alice has lived in 11 different houses, each one more dilapidated than the previous. This has never bothered Alice, who loves working with her dad to fix up everything they find. But Alice's mom wants this move to be the last, so the family makes a pact to not fix anything and to stay put for a while. Alice then discovers the condemned house next door and decides this is a perfect project. The more she fixes up the house, though, the more she gets to know its ghostly inhabitants. And eventually she comes to realize that where she puts her mind to work, she can fix more than just houses. Okay. There's the link to that Edelweiss collection that we keep talking about. E-galleys are available there. If you've never downloaded from us, we will get you approved very, very quickly. Just mention that you're an educator, a teacher, a librarian, and we'll approve you like that because we certainly want you reading them and sharing them. Mimi has offered to take any questions that you have. So there is Mimi's contact information. And Harper Stacks, that's where we are online. So we've got Twitter and Facebook and a great blog with lots more information. So check that out. So I don't know if we have any questions, or Julia, if you want to sort of check with the audience to see if they have any questions for our creators or for Mimi or for me. Yeah,
We've pulled a few, but first, thank you so much to everyone for these amazing presentations. They were really outstanding. So we have one question that popped up for Elizabeth. What is your favorite spot in Flushing, and did it make it into Queens?
Yeah, so my favorite spot is the Unisphere in Flushing. If you don't know what that is, it's this enormous globe in the middle of Flushing Meadows Park. And it actually very much makes it into Queens. It is one of the main hangouts for the girls throughout the book, and it's on the back cover of the hardcover, not on the ARC, unfortunately, so I can't show you, but you will see it there with the three girls. So I'm really just overjoyed that it's on the back cover. And just a cute aside, I love the Unisphere, but I hadn't visited it in like 10 years since I was a child, because my grandparents raised my dad in Flushing, and he unfortunately since then passed away when I was in high school. So I was telling my mom, like, oh my gosh, like I love the Unisphere so much. And I visited it again, and she was like, oh, you know what? Your dad's favorite spot is the Unisphere. And so I had already written the book. I had already we had already made the back cover. So it's just a really nice additional tribute.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing. That was amazing. Corey, on to you. This question here is asking about formats. And you were talking about how you had this format you wanted to play with for your picture book, and you're also very experienced diving into like the graphic novel world and other kinds of illustration. So is there anything you would want to play with in a future picture book or project?
Yeah, I'm in very early stages of my next picture book right now, and nobody's seen it yet, not even my editor. So it's about an upside down catfish, and so I'm planning to play around a little bit with an upside down picture book, but I don't think I should say more than that because it's very early stages right now. But and I'd love to in the future play with flaps or cutouts, and there's just so many options of things that you can do and play with picture books. So yeah, we'll see.
For sure. I'm very intrigued by this catfish. That leaves us with Jerry. You have a lot of Easter eggs that you include in your books. Is there a favorite of yours?
I think that my favorite may be from Class Act. And there is a scene where the upper school African-American students invite Drew to come and sit with him. And they give the introduction, and it says, Jordan and Liam, this is Jason, Renee, Nick, Angie, Liz, Jackie, Derek, and Kwame. And that is Jason Reynolds, Renee Watson, Nick Stone, Angie Thomas, Elizabeth Acevedo, Jackie Woodson, Derek Bonds, and Kwame Alexander. So that is on page 101 of Class Act. And the people who notice it are so happy. They always email me, oh my God, I realized that. And then the ones that don't, when I tell them, they're like, oh, I can't believe that I missed that. So I love the Easter eggs. At some point, Patty will have to do a test, a new kid Easter egg hunt quiz or something like that, which would be kind of fun.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That does sound amazing. I think that's it. In general, are you all available for school or library visits, whether this is in person or virtual? And how would people contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can contact me through my website. It's elshenwrites.com.
And you can contact me at coryartabor.com.
And me is just jerrycraft.com.
And hi, this is Mimi from Harper. I also just want to note you can email school and library at harpercollins.com for any school visit questions for any of our authors or illustrators.
Excellent. Thank you again to everyone for joining us today and these excellent presentations. I'm just gonna wrap up here with a few housekeeping things. If anyone else wants to turn off their cameras, you're welcome to while I run through this. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's video recording, title list, slide presentation, and a certificate of completion. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. Have you heard? Booklist Reader, our new book browsing guide offering reading recommendations to patrons of all ages, is now available in print. Go to booklistonline.com to find out how you can order print copies for distribution at your library. Already subscribed? Booklist subscribers can share issues digitally for free. Visit our website for more details and to see examples of how libraries are sharing Booklist Reader with their patrons. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. One more huge thank you to our special author guests and our sponsor, HarperCollins Children's Books. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.